When it comes time to brave the elements and boldly go out into the wild, everyone knows you need to kit yourself out first. And if you don't know what you don't know, you may go to a big box store like Target or Walmart and head straight to the camping section. Ozark Trails is Walmart's house brand for such things. Gloves, check. Snow pants, check. Tent, check. Stove, check. Backpack, check. Adjustable ski poles, check. Headlamp, check. Until bristling with a loaded cart, you make your way to the checkout, both impressed at how little this pile of gear is going to cost and secretly chuffed that it all fits inside that newly purchased backpack. No extra plastic bags needed. What kind of temporary transport is for flatlanders, you think, as you decline the cashier's offer to help you bag your haul? So, feeling a little like Jack Kerouac in the Dharma Bums, you strike out to find adventure, freedom, liberation, and all sorts of other capitalized superlatives on the open trail. Except during that first night in the mountains, the wind kicks up and it starts to storm. After an especially stout gust, your tent poles bend like half-cooked spaghetti noodles and tear a hole in your one and only shelter. Your rain pants literally come unglued at the seams when you're trying to put them on in the dark. Your headlamp stops turning on because some barely soldered circuit inside jiggled loose in your pack, and the zipper to your sleeping bag separates after it snags in the middle of the night, leaving you with a drafty backside until sunup. In sum, all this gear that looked just like the more expensive stuff at the mountaineering store but cost impossibly less turns out not to be fit for purpose at all. And because you thought it would carry the day and cover your ass, you didn't bring anything better as backup. So when it all inevitably comes apart in your hands, you are officially SOL, having to beat a hasty retreat to the trailhead and back to civilization, your hopes of transformation and adventure sodden and dashed. And the same thing can happen a little higher up the food chain at your friendly suburban RAI. You can drop a bundle in that place, kidding yourself out with North Face, Patagonia, and all the trendy brands that folks love to front in the front country, only to take these off-piste and into real backcountry situations, and you find them woefully inadequate. And it's not that these brands don't make some burly gear, they do, but they also make a bunch of streetwear versions that only share the logo and fabrics with the real stuff. So sure, at a ski resort, you can't tell the difference between svelte ski pants and bibs, or between bracers, gloves, and mittens. You might not even notice if your jackets have hoods, or if they do, whether they can hold a helmet inside or cinch up tightly enough to cover your face when it's frigid. Or note the difference between Velcro and buckles or elastic and straps. Hint. Velcro works great when it's new and everything's dry, but spend a week on an expedition and that stuff can ice up into irrelevance. An elastic's amazing at first, but it stretches out to useless under stress. Snaps, buckles, and straps are the only things to trust when failure means frostbite or worse. And the thing is, you really can't notice the difference until you can't afford for these things to fail, and then they do. That's why outdoor professionals, guides, search and rescue, Avi forecasters, all have their own favorite core brands. Those are the outfits that don't just design cool-looking stuff and have it manufactured in China for cheap and sold to weekend warriors in bulk. These are the brands that source from the for us, by us core community and go out and beat the shit out of their prototypes until they fail, and then they come back to the bench and reinforce them until they're bomber or incapable of failing, even if a bomb goes off. Anything less means risking life and limb, or at the very least, noses and digits. So what does all that have to do with us this week, dear reader? If you haven't heard, there's been a flurry of excitement and fear surrounding vibe coding, that newish breakthrough in the AI saga that lets regular folks plug in English syntax commands for AI agents to write software. And just like that, your own personal Jesus spits out working out spreadsheets, websites, and marketing funnels. There's practically nothing you can't vibe code your way into. Except it hasn't all been flawless. Amazon Web Services, which is responsible for hosting a large chunk of online cloud commerce, has been crashed a couple of times already by overzealous, wonky vibe coding agents run amok. A senior agent safety engineer at Meta earned lots of schadenfreude when she posted to X the story of how an agent she'd been vibe coded went haywire inside her official inbox and started deleting all the emails despite her master's commands. And Anthropic, the current good guy in the AI story, earned the contempt of warfighter Hegseth for suggesting that its AI wasn't reliable enough to run no humans in the kill chain autonomous lethality. And for that admission, they got blackballed as a supply chain risk designation that no U.S. company has ever suffered. It effectively cuts them off from doing business not only with the feds, but with any other company that does any business with the feds. And Grok AI, who has, let's remember, lost its mind and become Mecha Hitler, ranted about white genocide in South Africa, vaunted its owner's glory in all categories of human excellence, been responsible for 70 plus fatalities in Tesla's fully self driving mode that isn't really fully or self driving after all, as a recent lawsuit this week against the company affirms, and undressed sexy nudes of anyone you ask. That Grok is now one of the default vendors of record for the federal government, with all of its classified data and with all of its maximum lethality. And a recent wargaming test of multiple AI systems revealed that in 95% of all scenarios, the agents escalated to nuclear war. So, to connect all the dots on this little thought experiment, vibe coding is to the reliability of our businesses and the security of our countries, as Ozark Trail's knockoff gear from Walmart is to staying safe and happy in the wilderness. It looks almost identical to the quality stuff, and you get what you want for pennies on the dollar of the real stuff. But when it breaks, it falls apart so completely, it's damn near impossible to even repair. And when you've substituted it because of ease, cost, or just plain ignorance, it can end up costing lives when conditions turn for the worse. Sure, on a sunny weekend, flat trails, balmy temps, you might not notice anything wrong and be convinced of your thrift and wisdom. Same with vibe coding a PowerPoint slide deck or having AI take a crack at your annual financial statement. But head into consequential terrain and conditions, like an AI drone war in the Middle East or mass protests in DC around a contested election. And when this stuff breaks, there's no there to revert to. It falls apart in our hands. The black box isn't just impenetrable, it's made of cheap plastic you can't even glue back together. So when you hear professional guides cautioning against cutting corners on gear, no, they've seen the consequences of when someone does. And when we hear professional software engineers and architects, the kind who used to religiously pressure test and debug millions of lines of code before they'd ever release it into the wild, we might want to listen to them too. Vibe coding is the Ozark Trails of software, cheap, fragile, and dangerously impossible to repair. The only problem, we're facing a Mount Everest of challenges right now, from the collapse of white-collar professions to the fracturing of shared media realities to AI drone swarms to cyber warfare to ecological overshoot to fill in your next three horror fest. And what we need to survive and even thrive in these conditions are tools that are built to last, tools that have been forged, not fabricated. Because up there in the death zone, vibes are only going to get us so far.